Hello everyone, and in this video we are going to discuss the first round of the Chess Olympiad 2022 happening in Chennai, India, in my home country. I'm absolutely proud of it. And basically, making this video, the point is to discuss how to play against the King's Indian defense with the white pieces. I know that King's Indian defense is actually one of the most popular opening played with the black pieces against 1d4. When you ever play Queen's Gambit, you always many times white actually faces King's Indian defense, and there are thousands of players, even lakhs of players who actually faces crucial problems against the King's Indian defense. But I think in today's video we are going to discuss how to reply actually with the white pieces against the King's Indian defense, and I think we are going to discuss it by looking at the first round game between Vidit Santosh Gujrathi Grandmaster from India, India number 3, currently having a rating of more than 2700, against Rodwell Makato, an international master, a very strong player from Zimbabwe, having a rating of around 2350, like 2346. So basically it was in the first round we have basically India versus Zimbabwe. So on the first table we have Vidit versus Rodwell. So it's going to be, the game is going to be extremely interesting as it's an Olympiad. Very strong players around the globe come to play at a particular place, fight for the first place, second place, third place, and so on. Try to check out their strength and so on. So in today's year, India is organizing it, and I'm pretty happy of it. So let's quickly discuss the game, and I think it's going to be very helpful for all players. So, playing with white pieces, Vidit Santosh Gujrathi starts out the game with one knight f3, and black with Rodwell Makato replies with a knight f6. We soon reach the King's Indian defense position, very standard position, and after this, I would say the move order is different, but we actually land in this position where black is having this structure and white is actually having this structure. And guys, a very important note is, I usually say, like, to reach the King's Indian defense, we usually have this position. And I've already made a video where I am promoting that white should continue with f3. I'm still saying that f3 is actually a very good move to play in this position, where white plays bishop e3, queen d2 long castle and tries to attack on the king side. But guys, we know this idea, that's a good thing, but increasing our knowledge is actually a very wonderful thing. So I think after, I would say, over here, white have already committed the knight to f3. So basically in this video we are going to discuss how to actually play a proper reply against the King's Indian defense. As you know that knight f3 is also pretty brilliant move, one of the best moves to play against the King's Indian defense. That is one of the reasons that Grandmaster Vidit played it. So let's discuss it. So after knight f3, black castles, white plays bishop e2. That it's all theory, guys, chill here. Black responds with e5 and white short castles. If black goes for capturing the pawn on d4, we can simply capture it back with the knight. And I think white is extremely fine in this position. White can continue by playing perhaps bishop e3 f3, or I think even playing d3 bishop b2 followed by knight to d5 can be a pretty good idea. So now it's a completely, I would say, completely fine position for white. Absolutely, I think white is already having an edge. That is the reason the theory says that black should play knight c6, and many players who plays the King's Indian defense actually plays this move because it's all theory. So after knight c6, Vidit responds with d5, knight d7, and now we have b4. And after b4, it's still theory, guys. After b4, there are two main moves to continue this position from the black side. After b4, black either responds with a5 or black either responds with knight h5. These two moves are the most common moves, and in the game we have a5. But for now, I'm going to discuss what happens if black goes for playing knight h5. How can white continue and reply against it? After, if black plays knight to h5, white can respond with rook to e1, simply developing the piece. black plays f5, because that is the idea of black playing knight to h5, because black wants to respond with f5. We are simply developing the rook. After f5, we are going to respond with a4. Guys, I know it's becoming a bit of complicated, but just it's going to be absolutely fine. After a4, if black captures the pawn, knight into pawn, and I think white is extremely fine. Now white is the one who's going to attack on the queen side by playing c5, bishop h3, and putting pressure on the pawn on d6. As there is no pawn on the f file, I think black attack is already almost gone. Like if knight to f4 trying to put some pressure, white can simply play bishop f1, and it's extremely defensive position. There are no weaknesses around the king, and white is extremely fine. After a4, it is actually pretty hard for black to actually continue the position. If, for example, if black tries to play a5, which is actually the best move, we can capture the pawn, and after rook takes bishop a3. And guess what? White idea is actually to play bishop b4 followed by c5, which is extremely powerful. For example, b6 trying to stop c5, bishop b4, rook goes back in a5. And after black takes, because you have to take, or else white is going to take and you're going to ruin your pawn structure, followed by knight b5, putting more pressure on the pawn on d6. You take, bishop takes, and f5, f4. Guys, I'm making a random move to explain what is white's idea. After playing f4, white is going to respond with c5, extremely powerful move. I'm not going to count d into c5 because it already looks extremely bad move. White can continue with queen to b3. I think followed by something like d6 attacking this king. And I think even if black tries to move the king, we have simply bishop into c7, queen into, and black even lose the ring. So this is what happens if black tries to play a5. And like after here, bishop a3 b6. It's like even if black doesn't play b6, for example, in this position, and try to play something else, like I would say let's take a move, random move like perhaps f4. We are going to play bishop b4, rook goes back, and now we have c5. If black doesn't play b6, we have c5. And after c5, it's extremely hard for black to play. If takes, we can simply grab the pawn. We are aiming for d6, and it's already pretty bad for black, I would say. Like it's already +3 from the white side. And if black doesn't take, for example, if we move the king, for example, we simply takes, and knight b5, and this guy is gone. White is extremely winning. Completely, I would say. So guys, this is what happens if black actually tries to play a5. And this was actually the position that actually happened in the game, but something was different on the king side. If black tries to play b6, trying to stop c5, we simply play a5. And our idea is to actually capture the pawn. So because pawn takes, and we want to play c5. So for example, if black captures the pawn, now rook takes. Now it's extremely good for white. I would say perhaps queen f4 is coming up, hanging this pawn. Even c5 looks an extremely strong move. So guys, this is the idea from the white side. If white plays on the queen side, white wants to play c5. White wants to execute the move c5 to weaken up the d6 pawn. And I think white is actually having a very healthy position. Black idea is usually to play on the king side, but to actually play on the king side is actually extremely hard, because it actually takes a lot of time to attack. Like black have to play h6, g5, f4, g4. So it actually is a very long process, whereas white is actually pretty good playing bishop a3, trying to simply execute move c5. And once the d6 pawn collapses, the game is over for black already. So black actually have to make very good moves, very accurate moves, I would say. So guys, this was the idea. What happens if black continues the move with knight to h5, and you can actually play this position by playing through q1, and I think you can play a couple of games and you would already get an idea how to continue the game. Now coming back into the game, after b4, black respond with a5. Vidit took, which is also a theory. Rook grabs the pawn and we have a4 by white. The idea of playing a4, white wants to develop the bishop to a3 and try to aim for c5. So black plays knight to d7. I've already shown you what happens if black goes to play on the king side by playing knight to h5 followed by f5, which was not happened in the game, but in the game, black played knight to d7, trying to concentrate the game on the queen side. So after knight d7, black wants to play knight to c5, cementing the knight to c5. White pulls the knight back to d2 because once the knight comes to b3, I think it's one of the most ideal square for the knight, covering the square of a5 and c5. Black plays knight to c5, we have knight b3, and we have a knight room. Black plays f5, now black is ready to attack on the king side, but nothing is happening. So after f5, white simply first plays f3, so that if black captures the pawn, white can capture the pawn with the f pawn, and so that his pawn structure would be simply fine, and nothing is happening. So we have f3, and now we have king to h8 by black, removing this king from this diagonal. And now white continued by playing bishop to a3, moving with the plan of playing c5. Not directly, but white actually wants to play bishop b4 first, hitting this rook and then executing the move c5, which is going to be extremely dangerous for black. So black continues with c5. If you play something else like b6 is also extremely fine move, white can continue with a knight to b5. For example, if I'm making no move from the black side, like waste moves, now bishop b4 is coming up, rook a8, very strong move, like a5 is actually a very strong move. If we take, there is rook a5. If rook a5, we have bishop a5, and now it's actually winning. The c7 pawn is collapsing. And if you don't take, for example, if you play something like this, trying to do something like this, now rook a7, it's actually pretty dangerous for black. Like white is the one who is in the driver's seat, completely attacking on the pawn on c7 on b6. So guys, this is the idea. But we have c5. And here white simply unpasses the pawn, knight e2, and we can already sense that the d6 pawn is weak. White idea was to simply play bishop b4 followed by c5. That is the reason to stop c5, black actually played c5. If black plays something like c6, there are many ways to continue the position now. Like bishop c1 is one of the good moves. I think still capturing the pawn is absolutely fine because it still transposes what happened in the game. c5 takes knight into, and here we have bishop to d3 by white, giving some protection to the e4 pawn. Bishop to h6, taking control of this dark diagonal, and white simply moves the king to h1, putting the king to a light square. Black played bishop e3, trying to come over to c5, a very nice maneuver by black. Knight to b5, you can simply sense it that white is the one who is actually attacking on who is actually on the driver's seat, who is actually attacking. Black is the one who is actually defending this position. White is currently attacking the pawn on d6, so that we can sense it that black is defending. Black played bishop c5, white played rook to d1. If you actually capture this pawn, if you actually trade the bishop, now the attack is gone. That is the reason Vidit didn't want it to remove the weakness of the d6 pawn. That is the reason he kept the weakness, allowing his opponent to capture the bishop. He's not the one who is going to capture the bishop. Rook d1, putting some pressure on the pawn on d6 as well as on the queen on d8. Knight to d4, and we have the knight trade like this. Capturing with the bishop also completely fine, but now it's black choice now. Like if black captured with the bishop, now bishop to c2 is a fine move. I think perhaps white can play something like bishop to b2 on the next move, trade the bishops, and the d6 pawn is still weak. So we have e into d4. Black idea here is if white captures the bishop, now black is extremely fine. So white simply moves the bishop to c2, f into e4, bishop into e4, and now this is weak, and white is, I think, practically white is very healthy. Queen to e8, trying to attack on the pawn on a4, and here comes bishop to b2 from the white side. Playing queen to e8 was actually not the best move. Bishop to d7 was the best, but definitely bishop d7 looks like black is losing a pawn, but eventually black is gaining the pawn back. And here white could have continued with simply bishop 8 b2, and if bishop takes pawn, we have rook into d4, extremely strong move, very strong move. And if black captures the queen, we have rook into d6, check. And here actually everything is collapsing. It's actually still fine for black. Like if you move the king, now bishop d5 is over for black. So black have to play bishop to d4, giving the bishop. After bishop into d4, king g8 now, and after king g8, like now you can't give a check because of rook into bishop. That is the reason of black giving up the bishop for free. And now rook, and after here rook into d8, rook into, and here bishop to b6 can be a move, getting this rook, and it's a fine position now. Now c5, and it's an equal position, but definitely white is the one who is still pressing. Very complicated variation. So this is what happens if black would have played bishop d7, but we have queen e8, and now we have bishop to b2 by white, queen into a4, and now queen to d3, a very prophylactic move by Vidit Gujrathi. Queen d3, aiming for the pawn on d4. Black goes back, and now just look at these two bishop monsters. First, in this position, Vidit actually didn't went for capturing the pawn, which is actually the right way. He first played rook e1, which is actually excellent move. First, putting some pressure on the queen, as the queen cannot defend this pawn. The queen have to move, and now he went for capturing this pawn. And after takes, queen takes. Queen went for black is offering a queen trade. Vidit captured a pawn, then traded the queens, and here white is simply a pawn up. And after rook c5, bishop to d3. Now you can simply sense it. First, Vidit traded the rooks, and now white is the pawn up. And white is the one who is actually attacking. Black is having no compensation, simply defending. So we can clearly state that white is simply better and actually simply winning. He simply pushed his pawn on the king side, then trade the bishop. If you can't capture with the rook because you lose this. Even actually simply takes, and we are pawn up, so it's winning. So pawn takes, rook a6, and after a couple of moves like this, check, rook comes. White was actually the one who is attacking while being a pawn up. That is the reason it's completely winning. And after rook f8 check, on the move number 49, black with the Rodwell Makato playing with the black pieces decides to resign the game, and we have the win. After rook check, if black plays something else, like if king g7, white can simply play rook f5, and both the pawns are collapsing, and it's completely winning for white. That was the reason black decides to resign in this position. So a very systematic play by Vidit Gujrathi, I would say. He actually played a complete game according to the whole theory. Just going to give you a quick overview. He played on the queen side, capturing the b into a5. It's completely theory. You have to capture, or else you can't play anything else. Rook into an a4. Trying to idea is to play bishop a3, bishop b4, and executing the move c5. Black played knight d7, and if black played knight to d7, that was the reason we'll put the knight to d2, so that he wanted to trade the d7 knight with the d2 knight. If black would have played knight h5, I think white can simply continue with a bishop to a3 followed by bishop b4 c5. Like if f5, we simply have rook to e1. Now that's the line, and here actually the line goes. Like if push, we can play bishop b4, rook goes, and I think c5, extremely strong move followed by knight to b5. So guys, that was the reason. He played knight to d2, he traded the knights. He now first played f3, cementing this pawn structure like this. King h8, he end passed, he created a weakness on d6 pawn, and kept that weakness. And now we can see now that the b7 pawn is weakness, the d4 pawn is weakness, and eventually, with the help of it, we finally land into the end game, where white is a clean pawn up and actually is the one who is actually attacking, not playing passively. White is the one who is the pawn up, playing actively. Black is completely passive, which actually gives a completely winning position to white. And after a couple of moves, with an accurate play, white white actually went on to win the game over here. So fantastic play by Vidit, and eventually India won with, I think, 4-0 against Zimbabwe. And tomorrow is going to be the round 2 of the Chess Olympiad 2022. So even Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, is playing that tournament, although he skipped the first round, but he's going to play the second round. So guys, if this video, the analysis of the game, helped you to improve your chess level skills and helped you to gain some chess knowledge, then make sure to like the video. And if you're new to my channel, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and make sure to share this video with everyone, so that also all those players who are looking for an idea to how to play against the King's Indian defense, I think this video is going to be helpful for them. And I'm going to see you soon by covering up other interesting games which can be helpful for many chess players. So I'm going to see you soon. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess.